Welcome to this explainer. Human attraction is, well, it's pretty confusing, isn't it? We often think that if someone wants our attention, they're just going to come right out and ask for it. But, human psychology is rarely that straightforward. Instead of just using words to say, hey, I like you, people tend to build these invisible bridges. So today, we're doing something really fascinating. We're going to decode the silent language of human behavior using a very specific, structured psychological framework. By the time we wrap up here, you're going to be able to spot 11 subtle, scientifically backed signs that someone is actively trying to pull you into their orbit, literally, without ever saying a single word.
Picture this super relatable scenario. Have you ever noticed someone who just always seems to be, hovering right at the edges of your vision? They're close, sure, but they never quite make the jump to actually approach you directly. You probably notice this at a party or maybe in an office break room and just brush it off as a total coincidence. Well, there's actually a very specific reason they're lingering just inside your eyesight. Today, we're exploring the fascinating science of exactly why this happens and what it actually means.
All right, part 1, entering your spotlight. Here we're looking at physical and spatial clues. Let's dive right into this first phase of the connection funnel, which is all about the invisible architecture of where we literally place ourselves in a room when we're interested in someone.
The absolute brilliance of this first tactic lies in a concept called selective self-presentation. This is a psychological mechanism where a person purposefully chooses to insert themselves right into your physical proximity. And why do they do this? Well, because as humans, direct rejection is just downright terrifying to our nervous systems. Walking right up and saying hello, that carries a massive ego risk. So by hovering nearby, a person can protect their privacy and their pride while still making themselves completely available to you. It's our very first and honestly most foundational subtle sign of attraction.
Which brings us to sign 1. She's going to strategically step right into your spotlight, that specific physical area where she absolutely knows you can see her. But here's the real trick. She's going to act perfectly normal, like she's just going about her everyday life. Imagine her suddenly deeply engrossed in a book or intensely stirring her coffee right as she steps into your direct line of sight. She's basically leaning on the spotlight effect, hoping you'll naturally notice her presence and make the first move without her having to force the interaction at all. Moving on to part 2, shifting cognitive bandwidth. This covers cognitive and emotional clues. Because physical proximity is really just the warm-up. The real magic happens when the brain's focus shifts entirely onto you. So here is sign 2. We live in an era of just unrelenting digital distraction, right? We're all glued to our screens. Well, when someone truly wants your attention, you might notice her suddenly putting her phone away, maybe even placing it face down on the table the second you walk into the area. In today's digital age, that is one of the highest modern compliments someone can give you. Psychologically speaking, she is literally deleting her distractions and reallocating her cognitive bandwidth so she's primed and ready to focus entirely on you.
And this reallocation of bandwidth leads directly to a really fascinating psychological state known as high interpersonal sensitivity. This term perfectly captures our next clue. It's this rare ability to pick up on the absolute microscopic details of a person's behavior, their mood, or their appearance. When someone operates with this level of sensitivity around you, it shows a dramatically elevated standard for connection. They aren't just looking at you, they are studying you.
So that brings us to sign 3, which is when she actively displays this high interpersonal sensitivity towards you. Because her cognitive bandwidth is zeroed in, she's going to notice things that everyone else completely misses. Maybe you swapped out your watch, or maybe you parted your hair just slightly differently today, or maybe your mood shifted in a tiny way nobody else caught. If she points out these microscopic details, her brain is basically signaling that to her, you are high priority information.
But human connection isn't a straight line, it's a dynamic dance. That brings us to part 3, the push and pull, where we're testing the waters. This introduces a super fascinating psychological friction.
Now, before we decode the next sign, we really have to understand a psychological heavy hitter, and that is intermittent reinforcement. It's absolutely one of the most wildly powerful concepts in human psychology. It's basically the idea of providing a hit of attention or a reward at totally inconsistent, unpredictable intervals. Just think about why social media notifications or slot machines are so incredibly addictive. You never know exactly when that reward is coming, and that keeps your brain perpetually hooked, always searching for the next hit. And that brings us to sign 4, which perfectly illustrates exactly how intermittent reinforcement plays out in a real-world social dynamic. It usually happens in 3 distinct phases. Step 1. She gives you a very clear, unmistakable hit of attention. Step 2, she suddenly pulls back and acts distant. And Step 3, she just waits. She is actively testing the waters here, creating this vacuum of attention just to see if you're going to chase her to fill it. She isn't asking for your attention directly. She's engineering a situation where you naturally want to give it to her.
Okay, to understand our fifth sign, we need to talk about metacognition. This is a higher-order thinking skill. Essentially, it means having an intense level of awareness of your own thoughts, your own flaws, and exactly how you're being perceived by the people around you. When someone is highly attracted to you, their metacognition kicks into absolute overdrive. Suddenly, they are acutely aware of literally every move they make. That hyper-awareness frequently manifests as sign 5, acting unexpectedly self-critical right in front of you. If she suddenly points out her own flaws, like maybe criticizing a clumsy mistake she just made or second-guessing how she handled a conversation, it shows she is highly metacognitive in your presence. But more importantly, it proves she highly values your specific opinion of her. She is actively trying to manage your perception because, suddenly, what you think of her matters way more than anyone else's opinion in the room.
Before we move on to the really deep stuff, let's just quickly recap these first 5 clues. Think of these as the invisible bricks of a bridge being built toward you. We've got stepping into your spotlight, reallocating her brain power, displaying high sensitivity to your details, using intermittent reinforcement, and demonstrating self-critical metacognition. If you see these signs stacking up, well, the silent language of attraction is being spoken loud and clear.
Which brings us to part 4, craving depth and creation, and how we start deepening the bond. This is really the emotional climax of our framework, where the superficial stuff drops away entirely and a genuinely profound bond begins to form.
Sign 6 is a massive indicator here, cognitive flexibility. When someone is genuinely attracted to you, their brain actually becomes cognitively flexible. They aren't rigid or stubborn in arguments. Instead, you're going to find them remarkably willing to change their mind or adapt their perspective to logically align with yours. A movie she claimed to absolutely hate yesterday might suddenly become, worth a second look if you casually mention that it's your favorite. She actively wants to be on the same mental team as you. Now, notice the shift that happens next. Sign 7 is an active avoidance of surface-level small talk. She doesn't want to chat about the weather or the traffic anymore. And why is that? Because, as sign 8 reveals, she's now displaying a vivid inner world through her facial expressions and deep engagement. She's craving genuine depth and meaning with you. That shallow chatter, it just won't cut it anymore, because she really wants you to see the complexity of who she actually is.
Building on that intense need for depth, we hit sign 9. She treats your random conversations with incredible value. An impromptu 2-minute, completely unplanned chat by the coffee machine suddenly holds way more weight, and honestly sparks more joy for her than a massive, fully planned social ritual. Why? Well, because these impromptu chats require vulnerability. They're unscripted, highly organic, and they represent a genuine desire to connect rather than just checking a box for some polite social obligation.
For sign 10, we see an absolutely critical psychological evolution in the dynamic, the move from consumption to creation. She wants to move away from just being a passive observer of you, or just passively hanging out in a huge group. Instead, she's actively seeking out a space where the two of you are collaborating, brainstorming, or really building an experience together. Creation requires a uniquely shared focus, and that basically locks the two of you into your own distinct orbit.
And finally, sign 11. This is the ultimate behavioral clue, psychological detachment. Have you ever been in a crowded, noisy room, but the person you're talking to makes you feel like you are literally the only two people on Earth? That is psychological detachment. She mentally isolates her attention, letting the noise, the people, and the rest of the room just kind of fade out, dedicating her focus entirely and exclusively on you.
So, here's a quick roundup of those final 6 signs. From cognitive flexibility all the way down to psychological detachment, this basically completes our behavioral detective work. You've officially mapped out exactly how deep connections form silently, moving all the way from simple physical proximity to an isolated, beautifully shared psychological space. You now have the full toolkit. There's a great quote that says, "Silence isn't an absence of communication. It's a different language entirely." And as this perfectly highlights, just because someone won't directly ask for your attention definitely doesn't mean they aren't screaming for it through these 11 behavioral clues. The language is always being spoken. You just have to know how to listen to it.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. The next time someone is lingering in your peripheral vision, testing the waters, or shifting their cognitive bandwidth entirely in your direction,
Will you know how to decode it? Now that you have this powerful psychological framework, you aren't just guessing anymore. You can walk into literally any room and understand exactly the why behind the what. You've got the power to read the unseen. Keep analyzing, keep learning, and we'll see you in our next explainer.